everyone, it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is part of the hashtag Team Tiny April 2023 hop, and our theme is back to basics. Well, when I was thinking of what I wanted to do for this theme, thought about one of the very first things that I did in paper crafting, and that was to create my own pattern paper. I definitely did not have the extensive collection of pattern paper that I currently have, and because I hoard pattern paper, so I thought that I could create my own. Really easy way to make your card match your image, and a lot of times there's really small images in the stamp set that make it easy to create the background. So here I'm using stamps from MFT's Critter Condolences. I'm also going to be using stamps from Honeybee Stamps Playtime Pups. When I do the pattern paper, I take the largest stamps first, stamp those out in the pattern that I want, and then fill in the remaining white space with the smaller stamps. So you can see I'm using a stamp platform for this. I don't always do that because, that's a lot of repetitive stamping, but I wanted dark black bold images, and this was the best way to do it. Plus these stamps were new. So while you're watching me do this, I thought I would do a quick story time. Oh, you guys, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I started a new job, and this week was the first week that I traveled. So it was a lot. I met my boss in North Jersey one night, then we stayed at a hotel right near the first office, went to the office the next day, flew from North Jersey to Boston, and stayed in Boston for 2 days, and then he flew back to California, and I flew back to Philadelphia, and it was just a whirlwind. So when we were flying from North Jersey to Boston, it was late. Everybody was hungry, just wanted to have dinner. So, of course, we get to the Enterprise where you go to actually get the car, and the line was 25 minutes long. So they were asking everyone in line what kind of vehicle you had rented. Pretty much everybody wanted an SUV. They didn't have any at that point. So then they finally started moving some people up. So there was 2 women with a young boy in front of us, and the guy pointed to an SUV and said, "Do you want that one over there?" And they were like, "No, that we want the one that we ordered." And I was like, is he pointing to that one? So my boss and I are trying to figure it out. And I'm like, we'll take anything at this point. It doesn't really matter. So he asked them to step aside. And then we went up and he said, what? He said, "I heard you guys say you wanted it." He goes, "So just go ahead and take it." Well, here it was a Maserati. So for 2 days, and since I rented the car, for 2 days, I got to drive around a Maserati in Boston, which was so cool. Probably the coolest car I've ever driven in my life. Probably will never drive one again unless I get super lucky and get a triple upgrade. I don't think the people in front of us kind of knew how upgrades worked because he wasn't asking. I think they thought he was asking them to pay more for it, but they give it to you for the same price because they really did not have any cars. So I got my traveling in for this month, and, I missed the cat, all 3 cats, Lucy and the boys, so just kind of hanging out with them now. They're around me while I'm doing the voiceover and, just enjoying the time of being home, but that was a lot of fun. So, all right, now back to the card. I did have a couple of smudges, so a white gel pen will cover most of it, and if you can't cover it with the white gel pen, that you can cover it with an image or a sentiment or something like that, or a gem or whatever. Okay, so the second card is another technique. So the first one was stamping. This one is using a stencil. But you'll notice that this is for a mini slimline card, and the stencil isn't wide enough. So if you pick a repeating pattern, it's very easy to go ahead and line it up and just continue that pattern on. Again, it makes it look like pattern paper because it's one continuous pattern. Love doing this. So I used Kitsch Flamingo, and the stencil unfortunately is no longer available because the company doesn't exist anymore, but there are plenty of stencils like this. So there you go. That's how I created the background for another one of my cards. So this is kind of like 2B of the technique. So the first one was 2A, this one is 2B for stencils. This is a multiple stencil set from Lawn Fawn. I believe it's from Lawn Fawn. I love these stamps, these stencils. Stencils have come a long way from when I first started paper crafting, where they were just one stencil and it just had kind of a repeating pattern. There are so many really cool ones, and this is one of my favorites. So this is a 3-piece stencil. So for the first layer, I'm using Distress Oxide in Shaded Lilac, and I'm just going to go ahead and place the images on. The thing about these are, when you do the first layer, it's not going to look good. It just kind of looks like color blobs put down. It isn't until you get to that, second, third, fourth stencil, however many stencils there are, that it really starts to take shape. They're very easy to line up, and what I do is I use this little mat, and then there are lines. I just line the paper up and then line the stencil up in the same spot, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stencil over top of it. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's good enough. So I am using Wilted Violet Distress Oxide to do the second layer. And you can see, look at how it transformed from purple blobs to, you can tell they're purple flowers now. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of the pieces. And you can do these in any order that you want. You actually will see that the stenciled image there's some stenciling etched in, or there's etching in the stencil. So if you decide to use the third layer first, you can see where the images are, so if that makes sense. And sorry, I had to cut some of that out because Oreo, and you'll probably see him here, he was jumping up on the desk. Both of the boys were on there. They were shaking the desk. They were loving it because they were allowed back in the craft room tonight. They're not generally allowed in there. So the third layer is with Cracked Pistachio, and this is when it really comes together. Now you could try to mask off the heart parts of this. I just go ahead and do whatever is that on that layer is the same color. So Cracked Pistachio was all of the third layer. And once I take this off, look at how much different it looks like than the first time. I apologize. You'll be able to see it a little bit more in the end. I did have to cut it off because, again, Oreo stepped back into the camera, but you will see it. So the third way to create pattern paper is by using dies. So this is a 3-die image from MFT's Party Decor. So it just has 3 balloons in a row, and it just cuts out the balloon shape. There are strings attached to it. So in the Party Decor, there are, it's like crepe paper banners, there's a party hat, there are obviously the balloons, there are straight strings, I think there's a wavy string in there. There's a bunch of images in there, and you could create a really cute background with this. I decided to just use a bunch of colors and cut out a ton of balloons, put them into groups of 3, and then place them on the background, kind of like pattern paper. So it's a little bit like a 3D pattern paper because it's a little bit raised up, but it still will give you the same effect as pattern paper. If you're looking for a birthday balloon one or balloons for a celebration, this could be a cute one for a baby shower. If it's a girl, doing girly colors, boy colors, gender neutral colors, if you don't know what the baby is. So there are a lot of things that you can do with these balloons. Graduation, you can do school colors, things like that. So this technique does not, obviously doesn't just apply to balloons, but it's an easy way to create a background. It's a little bit more time consuming than some of them. The stenciling is probably the fastest and easiest one, and then I would probably say the stamping. This one probably took me the longest, and it's the longest part of the video. I'm using some new to me glue, the Bearly Arts glue. I find when I was cleaning my craft room with my aunt last weekend, I found the tips for it because I had the bottle, but I just couldn't find what I did. There's like a little companion piece that comes with it, and I couldn't find it. So hadn't been able to use it in probably like 8 months. So once I found those pieces, I was able to open it and try it out, and I really, really like it. So laid all those pieces out, and then we're going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. So I cut 1/2 inch off of what the card base would be. And then I went ahead and cut off all of the excess images, because that's one of the things you want to remember when you're creating pattern paper. When you cut it down, you're always going to cut some part of the pattern off. So you want to make sure that some of your images are going off of the page. It helps it really look like you cut down a piece of pattern paper. So I did have to go back and create one more red balloon for this grouping at the bottom. So once I glue all of those down, I'm going to go ahead and dress this up. You can completely stop here. If this is where you wanted to stop, you could stop here. But I have a problem with not leaving well enough alone, and I decided that I needed to do a little bit more to the images. So I am going to take a white gel pen and add some highlights to the balloons on the right-hand side. To step it up a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and add strings. And while I'm doing this, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Team Tiny. We are a group of crafters that come together once a month who have less than 1,000 subscribers who are actively trying to grow our channel. We have a theme each month, and it is hashtag driven. So you want to click on the hashtag in the title of the video, and it should take you to everyone's. There are usually between like 8 and 15 people who participate every month. And if you're seeing videos in between some of the participants, it's just because Facebook has kind of messed up the algorithm for hashtags. So please search a little bit further down and you should see everybody's videos. So now back to the card, we are going back in and adding some lacquer pens in pink and yellow. These are from Hero Arts. And then I'm also going to add in some blue Nuvo drops. This is just because I don't like white space. I'm not a clean and simple kind of gal for cards. You don't have to do this. You didn't have to do any of these additional steps. But for me, I just kind of like filling in that white space. It also will hide some imperfections. You can put these dots and things over any mistakes that you have made, any glue that you may have left behind. I am an extremely messy crafter, so I tend to need to do these type of things to hide my imperfections in addition to using a white gel pen. So this is the last card. So here are the picture of all 4 cards that we made today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!